Welcome, guys, to another edition of Radio 815. This is episode 165, and it's the podcast dedicated to discussing the work of writer-director J.J. Abrams, as well as his greater Bad Robot universe. I'm your host for this time around. My name is Marcelo Inostroza, joined as always by my fellow co-host, Matt Crandall. And on today's edition of the show, we are going to discuss the 2010 series co-created by J.J. Abrams entitled The Undercovers. So today we're going to be talking about episode 1, which is affectionately called The Pilot. Matt, are you excited to talk about The Undercovers? Because I am.
I am looking forward to this. This is such a weird show because it should have been a big deal. It is basically Bad Robot going back to espionage, spies. After, Alias has wrapped. This is JJ. This is September of 2010. So Fringe is on the air. Lost is coming to a close. We have already wrapped up Alias at this point. And NBC comes to JJ and says, we want your next show, and we're willing to give you the money to make it. The guy who's done Alias, Lost, and Mission 3 has come out by this point. So JJ is in like this spot where, he hasn't gone to do Super 8, but he's done Trek and he's done Mission. And they want to give him carte blanche. And him and Josh Reims, who has been a Bad Robot guy as far back as Felicity. He was one of the guys who worked on a bunch of Bad Robot stuff, but he was there in the early days of Felicity. Come up with this idea that is, we got a little bit of this on Alias when Sydney and Vaughn were together for a very brief window when they weren't having any troubles and double crosses, where it's, what if we had a sexy show? And the word that they used for it to pitch it, and it's actually said in the episode, is sexpionage. And they're like, let's make a fun, light spy show about these two hot people who are married to each other, who they do spies by day. They have a secret identity, or I guess secret identity by day, spies at night, but they also fuck. And that was kind of like their pitch, but it's network TV in 2010. So like, we're not going to be doing Game of Thrones sexposition. We're going to be doing broadcast TV sexpionage. And I think the reason that this show only lasted 13 episodes, unfortunately, is NBC notoriously kept trying to launch shows in this time period, like Mondays at 10, and like none of them hit. It was just a period where NBC couldn't buy a hit for like a long time. And Undercovers was given a pretty big marketing push, but one of the angles that they kept marketing was this was going to be a light, fun, week to week. You didn't have to know about any like mythology. You could just tune in. It would be like a Moonlighting or a Heart to Heart. You could just jump in every week and watch standalone episodes, which is something CBS does really well. But when I hear J.J. Abrams' TV show, I want mythology, backstory, characters crisscrossing, and Undercovers tried to not do that. And that ultimately probably became its downfall. But I like that we can start watching this show from this pilot now, where, it starts with a big action chase scene, and you can tell that they spent money on it because it looks pretty good. The first episode at least has a Giacchino score that is pumping, but if you played this and some of Giacchino's Alias score side by side, I don't know if I could tell the difference. So like, I'm loving it though. So like, it's working, and we get this scene where this guy's on the run and he hides a little USB drive that is the Bad Robot. It's a red robot. He hides a USB drive, and then we cut to like, him getting kidnapped and all this stuff happening, and then we meet our main leads. How are you feeling when we meet the leads of this show are going to be this couple, Samantha and Stephen Bloom, who at the time, these people were both relatively unknown. They have done a lot of work since, but Boris Kodjoe is playing Stephen, and Gugu Mbatha Raw is playing Samantha. How are you feeling when we first meet this couple at their restaurant, their catering business?
Gugu Mbatha Raw, if I'm not mistaken, has gone on to bigger and better things. Wasn't she in the like first season of Loki, or was that somebody else?
That is her. So Gugu,
okay.
I love her. She's so beautiful and charming and charismatic. She has been on stuff like Loki, the morning show. So she continues to work, and every once in a while she'll be in a movie. She's done a lot of TV stuff, and she was even Bad Robot. She was in Cloverfield Paradox.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
So,
I do.
So like, you know, she is still in the staple, even though unfortunately for her, she was in the Bad Robot show that got canned after 10 episodes had aired, and she was in one of the worst Cloverfield movies, but I love her.
Yeah, listen, the start of the show with the chase and the agent planting the red robot in a little steam pipe thing on the roof was great, because this opening to me, especially the chase on the roof, had so many it screamed, at least to me, like there was no tomorrow. And you said it yourself. The pilot score is done by, our Lord and Savior, my favorite composer working today, Michael Giacchino. And his score for this episode is very, very, very Alias enthused. So for me, that was it. For me, this pilot was like a homecoming. But I really like the angle of the two spies that we're going to follow throughout the series being married, and seeing how the dynamics work between them, and the fact that one key cog that they have in their relationship is that they know that they work for the agency. They both know that, but they don't discuss each other's past while working in the agency. So seeing how that's going to affect their relationship dynamics is most intriguing to me. But there was something about the dialogue and the way that these two actors played these two roles that was like, after months of talking about JJ stuff, I was like, oh God, thank God, this is finally a Bad Robot thing from the head down. I'm like, oh, thank God.
And it is, because, this is co-created. It's JJ and Josh. They created it. The pilot, JJ directs this. He had done an episode of The Office in the years in between. Whenever a Bad Robot show launches, if JJ doesn't do the pilot, you're like, what the fuck is up?
What the hell? Yeah.
I thought, oddly enough, the beginning sequence, it did feel very Alias. It also felt to me kind of like the beginning of Ghost Protocol, which JJ doesn't direct, but is Josh Holloway as Agent Hanaway in a chase sequence. And then, he ends up getting shot, but it's almost like the same sequence of events, except then he gets captured. So it really reminded me of Ghost Protocol. But I like it. And, for the most part, the Giacchino score is working and is great. Chris Tilton is going to do some of the music in some of the episodes, and he's the guy who also did a lot of the Fringe stuff when Giacchino stepped away, and has continued like in that vein. So he's like kind of his protege / like, co-score guy. And I thought the music was really effective, and I love meeting this couple, and quickly we find out that their catering business is a ruse, because, well, it's going to be their cover. It is their new life, because they have left. They have retired, which for two young people were like, they're already retired from the spy agency. This is fucked up. And even when Gerald McCraney, who, always plays either a real hard ass old guy or like an old guy with a heart of gold. So most people, if they're watching this now, will think of him as the guy from This Is Us, who delivers the triplets in the pilot of This Is Us, and he would come back multiple times because he's just so fucking good. But he often played, hard-ass military guys, and I like him as the guy who has to bring them back into the fold, but he's also kind of mad at them, because he's like, you guys fucking retired, and you're only in your late 20s? Like, usually when we recruit spies, they're spies for life. And so I like seeing his dynamic where he says, hey, we got to get you to come in because your buddy has gone missing and we need to find out what's up. And we learn that Steven and Samantha haven't told each other about their past. They both know they were spies, but they haven't filled each other in on the details of what they were doing. And I like that, because then we can have surprises like later where Samantha has to reveal that the guy who was at their wedding and is like a friend of theirs, she used to screw him. So like we find out, but that never came up before because they didn't share the details. She used to work on a lot of missions with him. So they want to bring her in because she knows a lot of the way he operates. And we meet them at their busy catering business job. and bad robot heads may realize one of the background chefs is Brad Grunberg, Greg's brother. So he's back there cooking, and I'm like, oh, there's a Grunberg. We know that we're in Bad Robot Town. And I didn't remember this, but Samantha has a sister, Lizzie, who is played by Makia Cox, who is now on The Rookie with Nathan Fillion, and I love her. So she's the younger sister, and she's really good, but now she's like real tough, hard cop on The Rookie, and it's great to see that she, started in this show, even if it didn't last.
Like, I really enjoyed the opening sequence where we got to meet the Blooms and we got to see how they do their cutting business. The one thing that I found really interesting, when the leader of the show comes up to Gugu, it'll take me a minute to get their names right, and he says, "Honey, we have a problem," and she goes, "Is it worse than last time?" And he goes, "It's worse." And she goes, "What's the problem?" And he goes, I keep telling you, you're paying our employees too much. What they go, like, we need to do something to get cost effective here." And I really like how that shows that Sam is really, she really cares about her employees, and she really cares about paying her employees above board or more than a minimum wage for being a cook. I think that says a lot about the individual that she is. JJ and his co-creator didn't have to put that in there, but I thought that was a very, very nice moment to tell you a lot about her without directly telling you that she's done acts of kindness.
That's a great point, that it makes us like the character almost immediately because of something that seems throwaway like that, but we know is probably going to give us more insight into how she operates. And we also know that a lot of this kitchen people that are only in it for like blink and you miss it moments are probably going to be some of the recurring characters as their day job and their night job. I'm assuming the balance will be harder to juggle as we go forward.
The other thing that I love about this opening scene is when her sister opens the door and we're graced by the magnificent character actor, and sister goes, how can I help you? And she goes, "Are you here for this wedding?" Right? Because they're preparing for a wedding. And he goes, "Do I look like I'm with such and such?" And the way that he says that is so, it's like so, he's like so disgusted. I absolutely love it. But the thing that I really like is that up front, JJ and his co-creator give that lovely character actor the job of doing the traditional spy briefing for the Blooms to basically tell them what the agency is calling them back for and what they would have to do. And also, I found it really interesting that the Blooms would choose each other over the agency. The agency is the CIA, guys. So it was very interesting to me that people that young, like Matt said, would give up their entire career for each other and choose something else. Because in Alias, Sydney was a career agent. She she did not think one time, "I'm gonna fucking quit," because being a secret agent was, in a lot of sense, who she was. So it's a really interesting reversal from Alias, in that Sydney Bristow was agency all the time, and the Blooms are like, "Oh, we did our bid for King and Country, and now we want to live happy." So I really, really liked that reversal that JJ and his co-writer put in there. I don't know if it was intentional, but I liked it.
Yeah, I think that was a nice twist. And especially, like, it makes us believe that they are actually in love if they would give up that life so that they could be in love together, right? So I do think that is part of the groundwork, and that is going to cause some humor later. And as you mentioned, when the sister answers the door, and I can't remember the exact names, but it was something like Lowenstein Chan wedding. "Do I look like this and this?" And you're like, oh man, McCraney is killing it as the annoyed. And his name feels like they typed into a spy generator, like, "We need a spy name." His name is Carlton Shaw, which is like the most like special agent name I've ever fucking heard. So I'm like, okay. Agent Shaw, yeah, we've heard that a million times. And I just want to shout out, I mentioned that I love Makia Cox from The Rookie. She also would be on, Bad Robot People Watch Bad Robot Shit. After this, she would also be on 2 episodes of Almost Human, which is the show that J.H. Wyman did after Fringe. So, she was still kind of in the family a little bit. So I like seeing those connections. But what really starts to hook you is, we open big splashy action sequence in Paris. Then we meet these characters, and then we find out they left the agency to get married. Now they have to come back. And when they get the debrief, they find out their buddy Leo Nash is missing, and Samantha and Nash have a history, so they need to bring her in. But then when they bait the hook is the scene after this, where McCraney, Carlton Shaw, is in his car, and he's driving after having got them back, they think just seemingly for this one mission. And his car phone rings, and he goes, hello? It's like, hey, this is Agent Kelvin. I got to talk to you. Did you succeed? Are the Blooms in? And he goes, yes, the Blooms are in. Do they know why they are in? No, they don't know the real reason we need them. Okay, good. Cut to title sequence. And that is like the JJ moment where I'm like, okay, what's the real reason they need to come back? And they tease us, and it's never fucking mentioned again, like in this episode. And spoiler alert, I don't think it's really mentioned again until like the back few when they realized the ratings were dipping. But this is the Bad Robot shit where we're like, oh, there's an ulterior motive here. And especially if the guy on the phone is Agent Kelvin, your Bad Robot radar better be fucking going insane or you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, listen, in that moment in the car with Agent Shaw, I was like, this is the Bad Robot mystery box. This is it. So I'm really hoping that in the back half, like Matt says, that gets picked up, or even earlier possibly, but putting into your pilot a notch that you can expand on later is a brilliant thing to do, because coming up with a pilot script is very, very hard. But putting in a device that you can use later on to make your world bigger and to be a bigger thing is very, very important. And Alias did this to a much bigger extent in their pilot. But what they came up with got a little crazy towards the end, but they did the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that, I love that aspect of it. That's the Bad Robot shit, like you said, the mystery box, the kind of like cool stuff that they throw in. That's what we want more of. We shelve a lot of that for just fun banter going forward for the rest of the episode, but I'm fine with that, because then we get the title sequence, which shows like wedding rings spinning around with cool spy shit. And of course, JJ writes the theme. The dude always does the theme tune. He makes sure that he's going to get those musical royalties for whatever small 30-second chunk of music it is forever. And so that's great. And then we pick up, and now the Blooms need to be reoriented into the spy game. And so we meet Bill Hoyt, played by Ben Schwartz, who at this time, I mostly discovered Ben Schwartz when he was on Parks and Recreation as one of my favorite characters of all time, Jean-Ralphio Saperstein, who is just this like complete asshole blowhard, and he is so funny. He's like in everything. He's the voice of Sonic. He was on the After Party on Apple, and like he's constantly working, and he's known for like his improv comedy and stuff. He does a lot of live shows. He also helped consult on how BB-8 should sound in The Force Awakens. So him and Bill Hader are like two of the main guys who JJ credits as coming up with the sounds of BB-8, which is just like a weird random thing that Ben Schwartz, that's one of his credits. And he was apparently a stormtrooper in Force Awakens as well. But he shows up, and now we always know on a show like this, we're going to get a Marshall. We're going to get a Marshall. We're going to get a Benji. And that's this guy, Hoyt, Bill Hoyt. And what I love is that in like a funny twist, this guy, like I said, he's very funny, very quick. Marshall is like the awkward geek, and they go kind of that route, but they make him super fanboy. But the person that he's the fanboy of is Steven. And it is so funny because throughout the whole episode, it's a runner where like Bill Hoyt is in love almost with Stephen Bloom. He's such a fan of his spy days because they learned about him at the academy that even at one time Samantha calls Bill and he's like, hello? She's like, hey, it's the wife of the man you love. I need your help right now. And so I love that, like, there's like this running gag about how he is like head over heels, just such a fanboy of Steven that, you know, Gugu, one of the most beautiful women in the world, is in front of him and he doesn't give a fuck because his favorite secret agent is here. What did you think that they made the Marshall Benji of the show just this total fanboy for Steven?
I absolutely love that aspect to his character, and the fact that Hoyt is obsessed with Steven is a really, really interesting quirk. I mean, the second he popped on screen, you would have been proud of me, Matt. I was like, this is the Marshall. This is the Marshall, and this is the Benji. And I absolutely love the way that Ben Shorts plays him because, listen, I'm not a comedy guy, so I haven't seen Sonic, and I didn't see Parks and Rec, unfortunately, because I'm not a comedy guy. But I really, really appreciate the way that he played nerdy but being nervous, because there are several instances throughout this pilot when he apologizes to Steven for not getting the best of this or the best of that. Like, there was one section where they need a plane to go somewhere. And Hoyt apologizes for not getting a bigger plane. And like, who would do that? And Steven goes, the plane is fine, Benji. We just need a plane. It's just really, really good banter, and I'm so glad that in every spy thing that JJ does, he's sort of done a remix of his Marshall character from Alias, because one thing that I loved in Alias, I don't know if I mentioned this when we were actually doing the show, but I love Marshall. He was just really great for so many reasons. And I love that JJ has sort of continued that tradition as he's done a few some spy things since Alias.
Yeah, I think it's great to have that character because, you know, as the Spider-Man movies have said, we always expect like the guy in the chair. And this is the guy in the chair who's the tech guy. But just giving him that one quirk where like he is just a fanboy for this guy inexplicably is so great. And yeah, he's apologizing that they don't have a bigger plane. The dude's like, it's fine, man. I don't give a fuck. Just get us where I'm going. And I love that. And so then they're going to track down Nash. And as they are on the plane, they're going to jump out the back of the plane, which is like one of the only, you know, we didn't have enough money for really convincing jumping out of a plane effects. It's the only sequence in the whole episode that really doesn't feel as real as the rest, because the rest, even if it is, you know, Hollywood backlot looking like Paris, it feels more tangible than this jumping out of the plane. But of course, before they jump out of the plane, Samantha has to say, well, you know, me and Nash work together a lot. I know a lot of his protocols. By the way, we also were an item for 8 months. And the husband's like, what? And she's like, gotta go. And like, they jump out of the plane. And so they don't have to time to address it because they got to be boots on the ground. And then we see as they, you know, are tracking where Nash was, who he was meeting with. And they realize that he was trying to go undercover with some like big bad evil guy, Slotsky. And they got to track him down because he is like this evil thing. And we go through the whole rigmarole of, you know, they almost get caught, they narrowly escape, and then of course we have to dress up. This is a spy trope, like in 90% of spy things. We're gonna have to dress up and go to a fancy party and tango and shit while we're doing this thing. So what do you think? As you know, they almost get caught, then they're dressed up in their best. They do their sexy dance together, and we see that they're still in love as they're doing this mission, True Lies style.
Yeah, listen, I love the sequence where they have to go to this party to get to a guy that knows Slotsky and could possibly know where the agent is that they're looking for. But the thing I loved about it is when Samantha steps in, Steven looks at her and goes, "You look outstanding." And then I love that she goes, how the hell, like Steven and Hoyt are talking on the comms, like, how the hell are we going to get this guy's phone away from him? And like Matt mentioned, this show was built on a thing called sexpionage. Samantha goes, I'll do it. So she basically takes this guy off and basically, you know, works this guy. And she gets to a point where she actually has to get into a birthday suit to get this guy's phone. And I love the moment when she's doing her sexy thing, and Steven is counting down the moments before getting all the information from his phone. And when Steven goes, okay, it's at 100%, Sam smacks the guy in the face, and he goes, "You're loco." And then the actress does a really cool thing with her teeth, and she goes, "Loco," and she snaps her teeth. I'm like, that's so cool. You are so sexy and badass. I love that. And she just walks away. That is such a good moment, but also that really tells you that she's committed to her job and she will do anything within reason to do what she has to do. I also really love the moment because because it's paying off a moment earlier on when they first got to Manila or wherever they are. Steve, Sam was like, or Steven was like, we haven't danced together in a while. So after they successfully completed the mission, like Matt hinted at, they danced together, and it's apparent that these people love each other. It's apparent that these people have chemistry, but it was really nice to see something that JJ and his co-writer set up before be paid off in the traditional spy. We got to go to a ball sequence.
Yeah, and it was nice because, like you said, it's kind of after they've accomplished what they came there to do. So it's like they're just doing it for them to have fun together.
Right.
Which is great. And shout out to the idiot who co-wrote The Suburbans. Tony Gumma was the band leader at this ball where they dance, and he was that annoying guy who couldn't take care of children in The Suburbans, which, like I said, he pops up in almost every Bad Robot project, so he was in this pilot of Undercovers. I love that you said, when Gugu has to strip down because she's trying to seduce this guy, and she's literally, her dress falls to the floor, she's wearing bra and panties, and it's like hot. And then she says, loco, and does this weird thing, and when they finally don't have to seduce the guy anymore because they got what they needed, she just gets the fuck out of there like it was no big deal. And we see, she's willing to go so far to keep the cover. She's not going to do anything out of line. And then her and her husband have a nice sexy dance, and they just enjoy each other's company while they're on this mission. Then they eventually track down the thumb drive, which they find because they know where Leo was, and he did leave a New York Yankees logo on the steam pipe that he hid the Bad Robot flash drive in. And so Steven recognizes, like, this is what Leo would have put this here because I guess he's a Yankees fan. And when they read the data on it, it looks like Leo has turned bad and he's going to sell secrets to Slotsky. So we've got like a moment where we think maybe he is turning on the agency. And then they do track him down. And of course, he says, I intentionally got caught, you fucking idiots. Let me do what I'm doing. I'm so close to getting the guy we're trying to get, and you guys are going to blow it by rescuing me. And that's, again, another spy trope of like rescuing somebody who doesn't need to be rescued. But I like the way they do it because then when they finally are trying to get the hell out of Dodge, Leo and Steven basically team up and they get some really funny banter when he's like, Leo is like, sorry, man, I guess you found out that me and your wife dated for 9 months. And he's like, 9 months? She told me 8 months. And he's like, don't hold it against me that I used to do sex with your wife. And so, like, I like the banter between those two guys. And then there's a whole, chase and escape sequence that culminates with Leo and Steven shoot this guy at the same time with a rocket launcher. And he does the classic Wilhelm scream sound effect as he gets killed, and he shoots a rocket straight into the air. And so that's, fun and goofy, but like we're having a good time with these two guys bickering about their best friends, but they have slept with the same woman. And now one of them is married to her, but they're also trying to accomplish the mission. So I like that even as we have like heavy action scenes, it's light. It's still fun. And I just, the chemistry of this cast is great. Like that's the thing that I'm surprised people didn't catch in because I just love the banter. It's the best part.
Yeah, look, I mean, listen, JJ is our guy, but the one thing that I think that he doesn't get nearly enough credit for is every time that JJ does a project that he develops from the ground up, he has this innate capability, just like his idol, Steven Spielberg, to find just the right people to play these characters. Like, he has this thing, and all his casts, give or take a few here or there, are absolutely wonderful. And you're right. The chemistry that our main cast have here are absolutely wonderful. I love the sequence when they go and get Leo, because the whole tension of that scene is Steven constantly says, let me go in so you don't have to do this. Like, he constantly is trying to keep Sam safe. And I love the fact that when Steven comes across Leo and is setting him free, Sam just shows up out of nowhere. And I love how Leo goes, "Oh, Sam, how are you?" And she goes, "Hi." It's just great. And also, I love when they're making their escape, that Steven is like, no, I'm going to go get, I want to go get Slopsky. And Sam is like, "No, you get him out of here and I'll go after the guy." And I love it when she's making her exit, she has to shoot through a couple guys. And JJ does this great panning shot of her just shooting two guys off of some balcony. It just looks so cool, because as she's shooting the gun, JJ stays steady on her. It's just a cool shot. And as she's chasing Slopsky in a car, this shows how badass Sam is. She takes a fucking rocket launcher, and while driving, this is such a badass moment. While driving, she takes the rocket launcher in one of her hands, and with her other hand, she steadies the wheel, and she shoots the car that Slopsky's running away in with the fucking rocket launcher while driving. That is such a badass moment. And to put the capper on the scene, she gets out of the car and she goes, Slopsky, Samantha Bloom, how are you? Boom! She just kicks him in the face with her foot, and I'm like, yes, this woman is awesome. I love you.
Yeah, it's a great sequence because we get to see Sam in her element doing her thing, and they have also set up Slotsky to be like, we think maybe he's going to be the big bad of the series, but Sam captures him in episode 1. So like, he's not the big bad of the series. They got him. They successfully did the mission. It's over. So that kind of shows us again the ethos of this show, where the carryover might not be plot. It's going to be more character going forward, rather than like setting up a big bad for the entire season, other than that one Easter egg earlier. So I really like that, Steven and Leo team up, but then Sam really gets the spectacular blow up the car with the rocket launcher, kick a dude in the face sequence. And so then we see them go back to their life after this mission, and there's some more funny banter when Bill is saying goodbye, because he's still so hung up on how awesome Steven is, and he's like going to text him and all this shit. So I love all of that. And then McCraney says to them like, "Hey, look, you guys did such a good job. We need you back. Like, we can't just have this be a one-off. We need you guys back in the fold." And they're like, "Well, we need to keep our secret identity, so we need the catering business as cover." He's like, "I guess this is annoying, but like, we'll work with it." And so they set up that he's going to be like the point man for them, and they're going to continue to do this going forward. So they are unretired. They are back. And then we see them making out in bed, and like, they're getting it on, and they're like, "I guess we're back." And he's like, "Yeah, I guess it's time for some sexpionage. Like, that's going to be our thing." And they're like, "Well, we quit spying, but it was kind of cool to be back." And like, it almost adds fuel to their relationship. They're like, "I'm kind of horned up after this life or death mission. How about you?" And she's like, "Yeah, me too." And so I like that there's a moment earlier where they're too tired to get it on. And I think that it's fun when we see like their married dynamic, but this is also adding fuel to their marriage, where they're realizing that this is going to be fun and dangerous, but the adrenaline is kind of a thing that they missed.
Yeah, no, I really like that little story cork that JJ and his co-creator put in there at the beginning of the show, saying that just in that really quick scene from early on with Sam eating peanut butter in the kitchen next to the dog, and her going to bed, and Steven kissing her and saying, "Peanut butter," and them discussing, "Hey, you want to have sex?" And and Samantha goes, "I would love to, but I'm too exhausted." And I love when they turn away from each other. You think they're both asleep, but they're wide awake. So I love how that sequence gets paid off later on, with them doing espionage and Steven saying, it's not my birthday, but, Samantha doesn't obviously care. So, they had that great moment there. But this episode really reminded me how fun JJ's writing is and how fun his universes can be, specifically in the spy world. Like, I don't seriously, I don't know if that's 50% of me going, I love the guy, so the guy can do anything and I'll find it great, or it's just because I'm a huge Elias guy. But there's something about the way that JJ inhabits his characters and his universes that can be serious, because we have Lost, but they can be fun and fluffy like this.
Yeah, I think it's so nice to see them go into this like familiar mode, but they're giving it that fresh dynamic because of the chemistry of the leads and the fact that it's a married couple doing this. But a lot of the other stuff is very familiar, but in a good way, because it's what we like. We know that Bad Robot is good at doing spy shows. Just the fun of this. Like, I watched this as it aired and was bummed when they canceled it. And I hope this is going to be, I haven't seen it since it was on, so it's been 14 years. I hope this is not like a What About Brian, where I have fond memories and then revisit it and I'm like, fuck, what was I smoking 15 years ago? Because this show kind of blows in parts. So I loved the pilot of this, and I'm like, I hope that this is as good as I remember. And because I watched it as it aired, they only aired 10 of the 13 episodes in the States. So I've actually never seen the final 3 episodes of this show. So those will be new to me because they didn't air. NBC canceled it and they were like, fuck it, we're throwing these episodes in a vault. But they are on Tubi. All 13 are there. So only the original, 10 episodes came out. 10 or 11, but I know that the last 2 for sure didn't air. So I don't know if there's any resolution. Probably not, because this started in September. It was canceled by December. They were probably hoping for a back 9 pickup. They didn't get it. So I don't know if at the end of that 13 there was any closure, or like they were really counting on that back 9.
Yeah, listen, I remember being so excited for this series when it came out. Like, as a matter of fact, like I have a constant reminder of the Undercovers pilot, because the night that the Undercovers pilot aired is the night that I hung up a poster on my wall in my room, and to this day, 14 years later, I still have the poster staring at me on the wall right here. It's the poster of the first Scream movie. So like, but to be honest with you, I don't know if I actually finished this all 10 episodes. Like, I cannot remember. So like you, a large part of this watch here as we go through it is going to be brand new to me as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it should be fun, and I hope that there's some sort of resolution, but even if there's not, we're going to have fun watching this in the coming weeks. And JJ, he co-wrote these first 3 episodes, and then he kind of turns it over, typical JJ style, to the rest of the room. But I know that he really was hands-on in the early days and helped them come up with the overall arc. And so I'm interested to see where that goes.
I think that'll do it for this edition of Radio 815. Listen, guys, if you like our show and want to reach out to us with comments, questions, whatever, we do have an email. It's radio815@aol.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter if you're still on the social media thing. Our Twitter handle is JJUniverse815. Or if you want to watch some of our back catalog of episodes, we do have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/radio815v2 if you want to go over there and check us out. But if you want to catch me, you can also catch me on Twitter. I'm at CreekFanatic88. But Matt, if the good folks at home want to catch you and your escapades, how can they go about not doing that?
We can just log some movies on letterboxd.com. My username is MDC3000.
All right, guys. So that'll do it for this week. But until next time, as I say often, we'll talk back soon.
Radio 815 is a Balloonhead Productions presentation in association with Killer Newt Productions.